My name is Adrienne Kinne. I served on active duty in the United States Army from 1994 to 1998 as an Arabic linguist in military intelligence. I then transferred to the United States Army Reserves, where I served from 1998 to 2004. I was activated and stationed stateside right after 9/11 for about 2 years. And having gone through the system twice, once before 9/11 and the start of the wars and once after, I personally witnessed a complete transformation in the way the process was handled. In 1998, I was given a complete and full, thorough end-of-service physical. And not only that, as part of the out-processing system, a VA representative sat with me and reviewed every single page of my medical file and filled out a VA disability claim for me. In 2003, with thousands upon thousands of reserve units, National Guard units, service members being deactivated through Fort Bragg, we received no end-of-service physical. In fact, they said after being activated for 2 years, and this was an unaccompanied tour, so family members had to pay for their own, for their families to stay there with them. They told us if we wanted an end-of-service physical, we would have to wait at Fort Bragg in these really run-down World War II barracks, way out in the backwoods, for 6 to 8 weeks or longer. And who, after serving activated in the reserves for almost 2 years, would want to do that? The message was really incredibly clear. Don't ask for an end-of-service physical. But not only that, there was no VA representative there helping to assist people file a claim. There was nobody reviewing their medical file. There was nobody telling you that you were eligible. There was nobody telling you the way to get into the system. And we all know that there's like that crucial time when a soldier is leaving the military, when you have that opportunity to get them into the VA system. And that if you miss that opportunity, it's just so much harder to get soldiers in afterwards. When I left the reserves, I decided to finish my education, and I really wanted to continue serving veterans and my fellow brothers and sisters in the military. So I decided that I wanted to work in the VA. In 2004 or 2005, I did internships at the VA in Georgia, where I saw active duty soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere, because the VA had actually signed on to assist military hospitals taking care of our returning soldiers, because Department of Defense hospitals could not keep up with the demand of wounded soldiers returning. When I graduated, I eventually got a job at the VA in Richmond, Virginia. And there I was working as a research assistant on a study looking at post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, because the symptoms of these two illnesses are incredibly similar, and it's just so hard for people to know whether or not it's PTSD or traumatic brain injury. There's just so much that we need to learn in order to better treat our returning veterans. As part of that process, the research group that I was working with wanted to develop a screening mechanism to screen returning soldiers for traumatic brain injury. And they went through a long process. There were a lot of incredibly educated, well-informed people establishing this traumatic brain injury screening. And then they went to kind of go that next step to actually make it happen. And I was actually on a conference call when somebody said, wait a second, we can't start this screening process. Do you know that if we start screening for traumatic brain injury, there will be tens of thousands of soldiers who will screen positive, and we do not have the resources available that would allow us to take care of these people. So we cannot do the screening. And their rationale was that medical ethics say that if you know somebody has a problem, you have to treat them. So since they didn't have the resources to treat them, they didn't want to know about the problem. And I think it's very much incumbent upon all workers in the VA to find every area that we need addressed and to demand that we get the resources to meet those needs. as I've worked in the VA, I've heard a lot about the problems that are facing our VA and our efforts to care for returning veterans. And one of the things that Jim Nicholson, our former VA secretary, said was that it is a way to meet the needs of returning veterans. They wanted to prioritize OIF and OEF veterans in the VA system, which sounds great. Prioritizing, it always has a nice ring to it. But if you think about it, if you prioritize one group of veterans, that means another group has to do without. And no veteran wants somebody else to go without so that they can be taken care of. The VA needs to address the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of veterans, new veterans, entering a system that has not grown to meet the demands that are being faced by fighting these two occupations. No veteran should have to go without. And not only that, no American should have to go out without health care. The mission of the VA to care for our nation's veterans is one of awesome responsibility. I personally believe that the best preventative health care, and this is a day and age where we're all about preventative health care, for our soldiers in uniform is to not use them to fight illegal occupations in the first place. But so long as our government is going to force our soldiers to continue fighting and serving in these occupations, I would call upon all members and employees, workers at the VA to remember our pledge to serve and provide for our returning veterans. And I think that it's so important for them to realize that they do not lose their right of freedom of speech just because they're a federal employee. Because we all know, our veterans know, our soldiers know, the VA employees know, our government knows, that behind the red tape, which is so hard to get beyond, there are just not enough resources to treat people. And it is just incumbent upon all VA employees to continue fighting and to fight vocally and long and hard until we have all the resources necessary to take care of our veterans.